Morning, gang. Richard Bliss Brooke here. Today we're going to talk about listening and how you and I listen. So let's talk about it. Let's think about it. So here's the essence of what we teach here at Bliss Business about listening. That when most of us think we are listening, what we're actually doing is talking. That's right. When most of us think we are listening, what we're actually doing is talking. What do I mean by that? Well, so you're in a conversation with somebody and they're talking, right? And so you're listening, right? And so, but my question is to you, while they're talking and you're listening, what are you saying to you about what they're saying to you? So they're talking to you and you're listening. Maybe if you've been to the active listening class, you are making eye contact with them while they're talking to you. And you're nodding your head because you're an active listener. And if you're building rapport, they say something and you jump in and say, oh yeah, I like that too. I used to do that too. I've been there too. I have that too, right? Because you're like building rapport. And so people are talking to us, and if we're an active listener, we got all those kind of head moves going on. But what we're really doing that I want to talk about today is we're talking to ourselves. And I'll give you some examples. So let's say I'm telling you a story about something that's happened to me in my life. And, I tell you, last summer we went on vacation at Disneyland. Now my question to you is, when I say we went on vacation at Disneyland, do you start a conversation in your head about Disneyland? Like, do you like Disneyland? Do you not like Disneyland? Do you start thinking about the last time you went to Disneyland and, oh, the kids were there and one of the kids got sick on the ride and you had to leave early, or the lines were really long, or maybe you had the best time ever in your life and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, that was the best vacation we've ever had, and I'm going to take my kids back to Disneyland because you're telling me about your Disneyland vacation. So maybe you get the point from just that illustration. So I'm telling you a story about I took my family to Disneyland on vacation, and what you're doing while I'm telling you my story is you're telling you your story about Disneyland. And it might be a story about your great Disneyland vacation. It might be a story about how you hate Disneyland and you're never going back. It might be a story about why would I ever take my family to Disneyland? There's so many other incredible places that I could take my family besides Disneyland. So the point is, while I'm talking and you think you're listening, what we are doing, we all do it, is we're talking. So here's some different forms. It's like, I call them filters. They're filters by which we listen. And they're really conversations that we're having with ourselves instead of listening. So one of the filters that we listen through when people are telling us things is we listen through the filter of whether or not we agree with them. So our listening is, okay, you're telling me something, and the way I'm listening to you is I either agree with you or I disagree with you. And of course, what do we do with the content if we disagree with it? Like, what do we do in terms of the learning process? You're telling me something I disagree with. What do I tend to do with the content? Do I tend to learn something from it? Do I tend to honor it? Do I tend to pay attention to it? Or do I start a conversation in my head about how that's wrong and this person doesn't know what they're talking about? And boy, if they understood things from my point of view, they wouldn't have that opinion. Notice that? So if we disagree with people, we tend to have a conversation with ourselves that's an argument with them, like making them wrong. And if we agree with what people are saying, well, then we don't start an argument with them. but notice how we add to whatever they're telling us with our own opinion about it, because we agree with them, and so we say to ourselves, oh yeah, you're right about that. Boy, you know, I read this article the other day, or boy, I've always told people that that's the way things are, right? So we listen to people with whether we agree with them or not. Here's another way we listen to people. We listen to them through the filter of hurry up and get to the point. So you can raise your hand. You can drop a 1 in the comments if you want. Let's do it this way. If you tend to listen, agree, disagree, if you notice that you do that, drop a 1 in the comments. And then if you tend to listen also through the second way, drop a 2 in the comments. And the second way is hurry up and get to the point. I listen that way all the time. I get somebody on the phone, or I'm talking to somebody, and I know they have a point. They have a point they want to make to me. They want to tell me a story that has a point, or they want to give me an opinion that has a point or something. And I'm kind of I value brevity, and, I'm a pretty quick study. So, if you're telling me something, I probably pretty much know the point that you intend to make. But gosh, if it's 10 minutes later and you're still like rambling, I start to listen through, hey, how about you get to the point? Of course, I probably start listening that way after about 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. But drop a 2 in the comments if you listen with the filter of, hey, hurry up and get to the point. So that's 2. Drop a 2 in the comments if that's you. So here's a third way we listen. This is really, really common. So you start telling me something. Maybe it's a story. Maybe it's an opinion. Maybe it's whatever it is. And what I do is I fast forward in my mind. Well, where are you going with this? Might be where is the point that you're going with this? And I get a little impatient with how long it's taken you to tell me whatever it is you're going to tell me, because I already know where you're going. So what I do is I jump in and just finish the story or finish the point, right? I kind of know where you're going, at least I think I do. So I jump in and finish it. So, somebody's telling you a story like, oh, I'm over here at the pool by our home. Kimmy's doing a bunch of filming in the house with a film crew, so I'm banished to the pool, which is a great place to work. Sometimes I go to the beach. I think it's a little breezy down there today, so I'm at the pool. So let's say you're telling me a story about the pool. I went to the pool the other day, and I was gonna get in the hot tub, and I jump in and I say, yeah, and it's too hot, isn't it? And they say, well, no, that's not what I was going to say. And I say, oh yeah, there's too many leaves in it, right? No, that's not what I was going to say. And husbands and wives do this all the time. The wife will start off, saying something, and the husband jumps in and finishes the conclusion because they already know what you're talking about. And of course, this wife says, no, that's not what I was going to say. And so the husband guesses again, and then they guess again. And so number 3 is, are you one of those people that think you know what people are talking about? So you're not going to let them finish talking about it. You're going to save the day. You're going to be smarter than the average bear. You're going to be smarter than your spouse. You're going to be the mind reader. And you're going to jump in and finish their sentence for them or finish their story for them. So drop a 3 in the comments if that's you. You're the story stealer. You're the punchline thief. You're the know-it-all who knows what somebody's going to say. And you jump in and steal the show, right? And then there's the one-upman or one-up woman, right? And so I'm telling you a story about something that happened to me, and all you can think about is, oh my gosh, this reminds me of when such and such happened to me. And so if I take too long to tell the story, you're going to interrupt me. You're going to interrupt me. You're actually going to interrupt my story and start telling me about your story that's better. And if you don't interrupt me, which would be a miracle if you don't interrupt me, your response, at least, to my story, as soon as I take a breath, is going to be for you to jump in and tell your story. I think that's number 5. So if that's you, you're the one-up person, you're the one-upman, the one-up woman, drop a 5 in the comments. Come on, tell the truth. We all do it, right? And so there's a lot of other different ways of listening. There's just 5 filters for you right there. But here's the most important point of how we listen is somebody's talking to us. We'd like to have them think that we're listening, so we're not talking. That's how we define that we're listening. You're talking to me. I'm not talking while you're talking to me, so I'm listening. Obviously, I'm not listening if I interrupt you and start telling my own story. But during the period of time that I make the claim I'm listening to you, the question is, are you really listening or are you talking? Because if you're talking to you, if you're a color commentator on the story, on the opinion, on the dialogue, on whatever somebody's telling you, if you're commenting about it along the way, if you go into your own head and, oh, my story, and oh, my opinion, oh, hurry up, get to the point, oh, I know where you're going with that. You're actually talking while the other person is talking to you. And of course, we think we get away with it because we're thinking it's not audible. So they're the one making noise. As long as I'm not making noise, I'm getting away with, I'm not really focused on what they are saying. I'm focused on what I'm saying to me, but I think I'm getting away with it because I'm not making any noise. But here's the thing. If I'm telling you a story, now if you're telling me a story, can you tell if I'm what I call being present to you and your story? Can you tell intuitively if I'm being present? Now, obviously, if you're talking to me, and this is me, obviously, you know, I'm not being present, right? But if you're talking to me and you can kind of see that intuitively, that glazed over look on my face, then you can tell you've kind of lost me, right? Where'd you go? Well, you know, I went into my own story. I went into my own opinion. Here's a couple more. Number 6 is judgmental. So you're telling me something that happened, something you did, and my listening, my conversation is that I'm judging you. And it might be something you're telling me, or I might be judging you about your hair, or what you're wearing, or why you have a bolt in your nose. I do that. So young people that have bolts in their nose, or like, you know, arrows pierced through their nose or their eyebrow or something like that, they're telling me something. And all I really do is wonder, what were you thinking? How do you think that this helps you move in the world with power and credibility, that you have a bolt through your nose or a ring through your nose? And I get it. It's individually, you know, I'm guilty. I'm judging you. Like, my opinion about who would put a bolt through their nose and think that helps them get through life, that's more important to me than whatever they're telling me. So the point is, whatever they're telling me, I'm totally missing out on. So they actually might have some great content, right? They might have a great story. They might have a great opinion. I miss all of it because I think they're kind of nuts for having a bolt through their nose. And that's the conversation I'm having with myself. So is the conversation that you have with yourself judging people, either how they look or what they're wearing or how tall they are, or how short they are, or how skinny they are, or how fat they are, or what kind of car they drive, or what they do for a living, or we're listening in judgment, which is a conversation. So here's the thing. If you want to actually move people with your listening, if you want to be one of those people, like you've heard about rare people, these are high influencers. You may have heard about Bill Clinton. You know, maybe the reason he got away with so many indiscretions as a president is he had this art and he had this gift. He had the gift of listening and being present. You may have heard that people describe being in his presence like they're the only person in the room. And there's other people that you've heard about that are that way. Like when you speak to this person, you feel like you're the only person in the room. You're the most important person in the room, not because of what they say, but you just get this feeling that they're totally present to you. That's what I call. They're in the moment, and they're not somewhere else. So if I'm in a conversation about hurry up and get to the point, or I don't agree with you, or why do you have that bolt in your nose, I'm somewhere else. I'm not with you. I'm with me. And it's not somewhere else physically. It's just somewhere else in terms of being present. So here's how you can listen to people and have them feel like they're the only person in the room, they're the most important person in the moment, is to not engage in the dialogue. Now, if you're human, the dialogue's going to start. Like you're going to ask yourself questions. Somebody's talking to you and your commitment is to be present. And you're going to ask yourself questions. Why do they have that bolt in their nose? Or why are they wearing that? Or did they really think that was attractive? Or, well, they're telling me they're really successful, but they're driving a 1979 Dodge Dart. So you start that conversation. And so step one to being present to people is don't engage in your own conversations. Just don't engage. Don't answer the question. Don't go down that tunnel. Don't sign up for that class, as Jim Rohn would say. Like there's no cheese down that tunnel. Like the cheese that's down that tunnel takes you away from being present. So the art is just to keep returning yourself to be with the person and what they're saying. Just be with it. Just take it all in. You don't agree with it, take it all in, you know? You don't agree with it, what I would ask you is, have you ever been wrong in your entire life? Have you ever realized that a position you were on at one point that you may have argued vehemently for 6 months later or 6 years later, you changed your mind, right? You learned something that you didn't know before, you saw things in a different way, and now you're not on that position anymore. So all of our being on a position about we're right, you know, it's really like useless, because everybody thought the world was flat, and then everybody thought the world was round. And who's to say 1,000 years from now, all the scientists won't prove that the world is flat again, right? Eat meat, don't eat meat. Eat eggs, don't eat eggs. Drink milk, don't drink milk. You know, it just like keeps going round and round and round and round. Eat high protein, eat low protein. It's crazy, right? So we all think we're right, and that's great. We're entitled to that opinion, but there's just no cheese down that tunnel. The cheese is in being present, like just being with someone and not having a dialogue with yourself about what they're saying, but just soak it all in. Just let it all come in. Like, who am I talking to here? Just get it. It's not like a conversation. Just get. I want to get you. I want to get what you're saying. I want to hear what you're saying. I want to learn what you're saying. I want to like get you. I want to like what's behind the story. Like who is the spirit? Who is the being? I just want to be there. The closest thing that I can describe to this art of being present is what I would call a meditative state. So for those of you that are meditators, you know what the art is to just quiet the mind, right? That's why they give you a mantra, which is a meaningless, word that you just repeat over and over and over again. Because what it does is you get distracted. You think about, okay, I'm trying to meditate, but now the birds are chirping. So, what kind of bird is that? And something hit my head about 10 minutes ago. I don't want to look to see what it is. I might have got pooped on. So I think about that. But if I was here meditating, okay, but now bring myself back and just quiet the mind and focus on the mantra, so that's what I'm thinking about. And the mantra means nothing, so I'm thinking about nothing. And of course, we're human beings and our minds go crazy, and so we think about all kinds of things. That's okay. Bring it back to being present in the moment. So when you're listening to somebody, just practice the art of bringing yourself back from the distractions, from the holes you go down, and be with the person who's speaking. And here's the huge upside from that. So this actually all leads into the authentic networker, leads into the person who is curious about other people. And so notice when somebody's talking to you, if you're not present, if you're all distracted with all those different conversations, sometimes they'll stop talking or they'll ask you a question and you don't know the question they asked you. Or they'll stop talking, and they'll stop talking because they stopped at a perfectly natural place to stop talking, and you don't know what to ask next or to say next because you're not paying attention. So one of the upsides of being present to people is in the state of being curious, which is like the foundation of the authentic networker, is to be curious about people, not with an agenda to recruit them, but an agenda to know them. One of the upsides of being present to people is you intuitively know exactly the next question to ask if you're totally present. And it may have something to do with what they're talking about, and it may have something not to do with what they're talking about, but it's the perfect next question because you're not only present to what people are saying, you're present to who's saying it. You're present to the emotion behind it. You're present to maybe there's fear behind it, or there's joy behind it, or there's sadness behind it. You're present to that. You can hear it, and so maybe you ask about it. Every question you ask from intuition is perfect. Every question you ask from intuition is perfect. And you can't have your intuition in play if you're talking to you. Your intuition is only in play with people when you're present to people. Then you hear who they are. You hear the questions to ask. And it makes you perfectly curious. It makes you on cue, on target curious. Because every question you ask is a question that honors them.